Hi, Caitlin Moyer. Nice to meet you, and welcome to A.PUTNAM's Women in Golf.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to meet you.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you, and like all of our women in golf, everybody's got such a different role in this industry, and I'm excited to hear your side of things as being the founder of Caitlin Moyer Communications and Marketing Agency, and then hear more about your kind of fitness and yoga for golf. So you have kind of a number of things on your plate that are just maybe fascinating to hear about.
Yeah,
Awesome. So I always start these conversations with just simple question of how golf came into your life. Can you start from like square one of when
player
did that happen?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when did it come into your life?
When it came into my life when I was really young, my dad was really passionate about golf. He's played it as long as I've known him, and he never really forced it on me, but I always kind of wanted to be around him. He'd go hit balls at the driving range, and I'd bring along a book, and then gradually I took more of an interest in it. I
Mhm.
started watching golf alongside him, and I really gravitated toward Fred Couples, and he became
Oh,
my
cool.
favorite golfer when
Icon.
he won the Masters when I was about 9 years old. So that gave me something to cheer for and someone to want to be like. And then started playing it along with my dad. I made the high school team. This is the time around the rise of Annika Sorenstam. So she had a
Hmm.
huge role in me wanting to pursue golf and being a female role model to look up to. So that's how I got interested in golf. Never played it competitively beyond high school,
Hmm.
and went to college. Didn't play in college or anything, and then I ended up working in sports. I've always been passionate about sports. Worked in Major League Baseball for 18 years. Didn't get to play a heck of a lot of golf.
So what was your I could relate to that. What was your just to back up a second, what was your major then? Were you in sports marketing or something like that? Was
We
there
didn't have a sports marketing specific major.
Mhm.
I went to Marquette University here in Milwaukee, but
Yep.
I was in public relations and
Got
marketing, and then
it.
I did a master's during my time working with the Brewers, and that was also in public
Cool.
relations and advertising.
That's so cool. How did you land a gig right out of college with that?
I started as an intern and just never really left. So
Oh.
I started in the corporate communications department, so sponsorships, things like that. And then
Hmm.
they had an opening for a marketing coordinator, kind of a jack of all trades. I started
Yeah.
doing that, working with a lot of our partners. And then this was all around the time right when social media was starting. So
Hmm.
built the social media accounts for the team from the ground up, and
Whoa.
then advocated for, hey, if we're going to do this right, we need to have a role dedicated to it. So the last 7 years I spent there, or in the role of director of new media, heading up their social media. So
Well
yeah,
then
it's been a journey. I dated
that's
myself a little bit there, but
okay, I think I'm right there with you. And that's incredible because it also seems like an absolute dream job out of college. And then just the success that you found and growing a career in that is so cool. So, are you a big baseball fan?
yeah. Baseball is my favorite sport to watch. I never played it, but golf is definitely my number one sport now, and that was the only sport I've ever really played with any degree of success.
That's so cool. That's well, and it's nice because there's longevity to the,
Mhm.
the sport of golf. It's one of those things that'll be with you forever.
That's when I went to high school and I had to pick a sport for women. Golf and volleyball were the same season. I had played volleyball pretty well in middle
Hmm.
school, and I had to choose. And my dad's like, I don't think, well, A, you're not getting any taller, and B, you're probably not going to be playing volleyball like when you're in your 60s and 70s. And I play with my
Yeah.
dad still a lot now, and he's 75, and he's probably playing the best golf he's ever been. So it is good. I'm glad I made that decision to start that young, and it's something that has definitely helped me in business to make connections, and now
Yeah.
really in business as it is my business.
Yeah, oh, that's so cool. And it's funny because I've seen pictures on your Instagram of you and your dad playing. It's like father-daughter outings, and there's nothing better than that. It's such a good connection point with like a father in that sense. So it's, I'm sure, super special to you and him, even even more so. Do you have any siblings, or is it just you?
I don't. I'm an only child, so My
Got
mother's
it.
daughter, and I'm the son my father never had. So yeah, we have fun together.
That's cool. It looks like it, and that's such a good connection. I think I'm finding that with a lot of women that say that there's such a family aspect to it too that brings you either closer to your parents or kids, or just it's really that a sport that trains versus multiple ages, and it's so unique in that way. So that's really cool. Now, I would love to like hear what was after kind of your role as that expanded, still in baseball, but like what was after that?
After baseball or after my role
Yeah.
expanded?
Oh, just with because you were still with the were you still with the baseball team
I
as
was
you
with the
expanded
Brewers
into?
for 18 years, yeah. So
Right.
took on the role of director of new media and basically ran their social media department for the last 7 years
Mm-hmm.
that I was there. So that involved going to Arizona in February and March for spring training, all the way through the 162 game season, and had some success during that time. So into the playoffs. So it was a very grueling job. We traveled with the team often on the
Oh
road,
gosh.
nights, weekends, holidays. So I loved baseball, but it was definitely a grind. So after 18 seasons, I started my own company and communications and marketing, just kind of a broad base. I have a lot of different talents. I love writing, so writing is one of the things
Mm-hmm.
I focus on when I'm looking to find new clients. So I started writing for the Wisconsin State Golf Association. We put out a monthly digital
Wow.
publication, have a column in that, and it's really great because it's wide open. They are, any idea I have, I don't think they've ever said no to
That's
it.
so
And I
nice.
get to find story angles. I get to write from first person point of view. So my first year
Oh,
of doing
cool.
that was kind of like my take on that was very first person. It was, hey, I played golf growing up through high school and then kind of got away from the game a little bit. It was always part of my life, but I never had time to
Mm-hmm.
practice. When I played, it was
Yeah.
usually like a scramble or something like that. So
Yeah.
my articles each month were, what if I practice more. I got fitted for clubs. I started taking lessons again, and then I worked up to playing in a tournament. And how much could I improve if I started actually doing these things? So each month I focused on a different aspect of the game. It was like, oh, here's how much
Cool.
technology has changed since I was really playing, and
Yeah.
here's what it's like with the health and fitness aspect, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and here's the
Yeah.
mental side of the game, which is so huge. And so there's just a different topic, and it culminated with me playing in a state sanctioned event. And I'm still not. I still don't love the competitive side. I just like to play for fun. But
For fun.
I picked a fun tournament. It was a partner scramble, and I did coerce my dad into being my partner for it,
Oh,
and we had a
cool.
good time. So
That's
yeah,
so
I love writing. And go ahead.
that's that no 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 that's so neat, and I think I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to it. Even just what you said, I consider myself a very casual golfer, and I think now being in this business, people are like, "Oh, you started a clothing line. You must love to go. You must be a golfer. You must golf a lot." And I'm like, no, it's actually not. I mean, I love golf, but it's the opposite. I have no time to play, and I hated that my golf clothes sat in my closet between outings and between things like that. And it's actually very reflective of the clothes I design, which are like, how could I wear this piece to golf in, but then throw it on to run around the kid with the kids or in a business meeting? And so it's very reflective of what style. So it's funny because my history with golf is similar. Although I didn't even play in high school. I played lacrosse and in college, and golf was one of those things that was a sport I could play and knew I could play forever. So I think it's so cool that you captured that journey and your relationship with golf in that sense in your article. Did your article or that column have a name to it? Was it all like
Yeah, so
titled something
it's
of the
my
sort?
there wasn't a name for this series, but my column is called the 411,
Oh,
but it's spelled
cool.
FORE, like the information. So,
Yeah.
so the whole first year was basically about my journey of coming back to golf, and now the articles have just taken on. I'm going to do a piece featuring your brand and other
Yeah.
golf brands for women, started by women, because
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that. And
So
it could be
cool.
anything. Last month was a military organization that focuses on veterans from the military and helping them use golf as a conduit for mental health and dealing with like PTSD or anything that most of
Amazing.
them have been injured and things like that. So how can they deal with that and kind of just using golf as that background? And it's a great organization, and I might get involved from with them from some of the fitness aspects because they look at things like yoga
Congratulations.
and meditation
Oh
and things like
yeah,
that. So
that's
it all kind
huge.
of dovetails. You just meet, I found in this industry, you just meet so many great people
Yeah,
and you just can make connections so easily.
it is. It is. That's actually what and I was not in this industry whatsoever before my like 13 or so years like of my career have not touched golf at all. So it's so refreshing but I think that's the nature of the sport. I always say that I always used golf and had it. And my dad was like, "You're gonna learn how to play golf because it's important as a businesswoman." Like, so I've always had that, but I think there's just naturally there's so much about golf that's in about networking and relationships. So it's cool how that's what you found as well with the people you're meeting and the organizations and everything that you're highlighting. It's you've got a cool way and a channel to do that, which I can tell you're passionate about.
Yeah, you talk to one person and they're like, "Oh, have you met so and so?" And just
Yeah.
people are also willing to help you. And
Yep.
yeah, it's a great community that we found in golf.
I love that. And so I know, like, of course, I'm going to ask you about your fitness for yoga or in yoga for golf, but just to stay on a little bit of the business that you're growing and what you've done, because I know it's more than just your writing aspect of it, but sounds like you've had some event planning and coverage of events. Like, what else as part of that, like Caitlin Moyer, communications and marketing? What else is under your umbrella and that you're working on?
It's not strictly a golf agency, but I find that
Mm-hmm.
again, the world is golf world is
Passion
small,
and
so people
yeah.
refer, and also it's
Yeah,
my favorite, probably my favorite clients. No offense to the others, but it's fun for me. So I've been
relatable.
really fortunate to work with a few different tournaments. So there's two PGA Tour events that I work with: the Wells Fargo Championship
Mm-hmm.
and Quail Hollow, and then the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities, and
So
also work with the
cool.
Champions Tour event here in Wisconsin in Madison, the American Family Insurance Championship. So a couple different roles at those events. Primarily helping with social media in some
Mm-hmm.
capacity. So at the one here in Madison, I'm more on camera
Yeah,
talent, so to speak, maybe
yeah.
showing the best places to view the tournament from, maybe interviewing some of the players, things like that. And then
Cool.
at other times, I'm more behind the scenes and I'm, asking golfers silly questions, and then we're
Yeah,
cutting together a fun video of
cool.
that, or working with the teams that they have in place to amplify their coverage. So
Yeah.
it's similar to what I was doing with the Brewers. It's in like
Mm-hmm.
week chunks instead of over the course of 8 months. So there's a lot of differences. There's also a lot of similarities, but it's definitely a opportunity to be creative, and I get to see a lot of great golf right up close that way.
Yes, you do. You get like a front row seat and to be a part of that. That's neat. That's so everything right now, has it been fairly local for you, or do you, for some of those events, end up putting some
So
travel in?
yeah, it's just a little bit of travel, and I'm willing to do that because, like I said, it's
Mm-hmm.
just weeks at a time. So went down to Quail Hollow in North Carolina earlier this
Yeah.
year for the Wells Fargo Championship. The first year I worked with them, it was actually in Washington D.C. Their tournament had to relocated for the year because of the President's Cup was held at their normal course. So worked for them 2 years now, and at two different courses, but traveled there for that. And then
That's neat.
TPC, the 3M opens in Minnesota, so that one it's about a 6 hour drive from Milwaukee over there.
Not too
So
bad.
not too bad, no. So I've driven over there, and then Madison is about 90 minutes from where I live. So I just camp out in Madison for the week and
That's
stay
nice.
there the whole time instead of driving back and forth. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
a good balance of travel. Not too much, but get to go
Nice
see
to
some
get
cool
out.
places
Oh,
and
yeah. So, have you brought your dad to any of those tournaments?
I have not. He and I did go to the one in Madison together
Hmm.
before I worked for them. Like we just went as fans one week,
Yeah.
but he has not. He's not much of a traveler, unfortunately, anymore. But but he does like he shares all the things that we put
Oh,
out as
I
content,
bet.
and I know he's very proud, and he likes to watch
That's
and see if he
cool.
can see me on TV. I'm like, you're not gonna see me on TV, but
You
it's nice
never
to know he's
know.
watching.
That's so cool. Yeah, the support I'm sure is endless. That's awesome. And so, do you have any tournaments coming up then?
And for the rest of this year, no, I am
Yeah, it's
talking
almost
to a
time.
couple others about
Hmm.
possibly adding some new ones to the roster. I'd like to get more
Exciting.
work in that regard, but honestly, as far as new business, I'm just kind of letting things come to me. I haven't been very fortunate where I
Yeah.
haven't had to market myself as much. It's more about those connections. So possibly, hopefully, adding a tournament maybe in early spring, but then the Wells Fargo will come again in May. Hopefully, I'll be back with them. We're gonna get together in October and start planning, start our talks, and then the other ones are in June and July. So right now it's kind of heading into winter here in Wisconsin, kind of a slow down time, focusing on some of those other clients, some of the bigger writing projects that I have on my plate, things like that. I'm also an adjunct professor at Marquette, so I teach a social media class, which is all online now, and it's kind of different. I've
Oh,
been teaching that for many years, and it's slowly starting with the pandemic and moving on. They've modified it for like a virtual class, and now it's completely online. So that just started up
mm,
again with going back to school. So there's a lot to keep me busy in between those tournaments.
no kidding. And then I'm just curious, like when you prep for a tournament like that, when does the planning start? Is it like 3 months of planning, or is it the month before you're laying out kind of your topics and your strategy? Like, what's that look like?
Well, it varies with each tournament and what their existing staff has and how much
Hmm.
they need my help with. I would say the first year with Wells Fargo, we started in September for their event in May, and really we were really looking at all of their social media and putting together a year-round strategy. A
Hmm.
lot of the tournaments and events, they might already have some of that in place. So it is more about what are we doing for this week, and I'm coming in to augment that team. So I would say, like with the 3M, as soon as I'm done with Wells Fargo in May, they kind of give me like 2 weeks to decompress, and then we start our conversations. But we have to work closely with the PGA Tour to get our content plan approved. So we do have to have
Mm,
that all buttoned up 30 days in advance. So
okay.
we're always in constant communication. I love the people at all those events. They're golf people, so they're great people. And we're always, if
Yeah.
they see a cool social media post that another tournament did, we're,
Yeah.
messaging it to, hey, we should do something like this, or what about, we spin it off in this direction, and keeping a file of ideas going
I'm
in that
sure it's
direction.
constant. Yeah, to see, yeah, what comes and sticks and all that. And that's interesting. So that makes sense that there's probably the PGA Tour that's involved. Is it one of those things that there's just a handoff and say, here's our strategy and some of the posts we want to have and the angle we're taking, and then it's like a yes, no, or do they end up weighing in pretty heavily on what that content is?
We'll send them a written plan, and then we'll usually have a call to talk it through. And they have
Hmm.
rules and regulations. Just Major League Baseball was the same way. What is the league going to want to cover themselves, perhaps, or
Yeah,
does it infringe on broadcast rights? There's things like that, or
it's
there might be
complicated.
yeah, a request we have if we want to do something with a
Hmm.
certain player, are we able to get access? Or we want to do this thing. Do you have a player that you recommend that might be, easier to work with, that likes doing this type of thing? And then, they have their own plan, so they might have had the same idea. And how can we maybe work
Right.
together on that? Or no, we can't do it because they're already doing that, or too similar to something else. So they're
Yeah.
collaborative, I would say. I would say, they don't ever shut down anything. They will
Sure.
find a way, modify, and
Hmm.
they're a really great resource at the end of the day.
Oh, that's neat. That makes, I mean, it makes sense, but there's
Mhm.
not red
Yeah.
tape, but it's like they're, yeah, managing a lot going on, and I'm sure that's the
Yeah,
coverage
because
and everything is
it
very
never
important.
stops for them. It's like we're focused on this one tournament, and in my case, a
Yes.
couple. But they're just like, okay, rolling over the next week. So they're always working ahead on the events, but then they're like in it for that week
Yeah.
at the same time. So.
Yeah. So what's your take on your own personal social media? Like, how does that um play into your career and things like that? Is it something that's important for you to kind of keep up with because it's the like the face of your brand, or like how do you treat your social media?
I probably don't do as much of my own social media as I feel like I should, and we probably all would say
I
that
feel that way.
as
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and business owners. I know I do more than like a lot of my friends for sure,
Hmm.
but as
Yeah.
being in the industry and trying to brand myself in this way, like I do feel pressure to kind of market myself. For a while, I was working with an apparel company and doing yoga videos and fitness
Oh, neat.
reels for them. So I was part of my role there was to create a fitness reel once a week. So that was
Yep.
actually really good for me because I was forced to create that content for my platforms. And now,
Right.
like, so if anyone was, following and said, let's just stop giving our fitness tips, I'm like, well, they discontinued that program, and I just
Yeah.
haven't found the time when it wasn't a client, to
Yeah.
create my own. But I try to do showcase just like what's going on and be personable and with
Hmm.
my emphasis on golf specifically showing
Yeah.
the work that I've done at those tournaments. I typically have so much content
Oh
from
my
those weeks,
gosh.
content
Like the
that
behind the
doesn't.
scenes of that is
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah. So those are easy things to kind of pump out afterwards. But yeah,
Hmm.
I don't have like a regular like a content strategy for myself, and I probably
Sure,
should.
sure. Like you said, easier said than done, especially when your world is creating that for others. That's why I ask, because it's sometimes people are like, no, I get burnt out from spending so much headspace on other people's strategies and content. So I wondered if that was one of those. It
Yeah, it's
seems
kind of
hard, right?
cobbler's children have no shoes kind of thing. But I think I do an okay job. I think there's always room for improvement. But yeah, it's like the last thing you want to do sometimes. It was more that way, I'll say, when I was in baseball, because that was
Yeah.
constant all day long. I was responsible for, community management. So always keeping an eye, is a player posting something they shouldn't? Does a fan have a concern? So when it's your job
Oh
to be on,
my
you're going 24/7.
gosh.
As soon as you don't have to be, you're like, bye, I'm done. So that's a nice
Unplugged.
thing with working with these events too. It's like, well, they have other staff that's their job to do, and I'm
Right.
coming in to help for that week, and I don't have to monitor and do that. So it makes me not want to avoid social media as much.
I
Let's
get
put it
I
that
get
way.
it. That's good. It sounds like a better balance probably at that.
Yes,
And you're
definitely, way
getting to
better
be around
balance.
a sport that you love and whatnot. So what about I think we'll come back to kind of what's next for your kind of communication and marketing business, but how does fitness and yoga come into play? Is that just a passion of yours and it just intertwined with what you were doing, or how did that all start, and what's is there any formal business around that for you right now?
So, I'm a big believer in everything kind of happens for a reason. We don't always know what that reason is. I've always loved fitness, and yoga has been a particular passion of mine. I've practiced it for many years, and I've always
Hmm.
wanted to get my certification. Not because I was going to teach it, because with my schedule working in baseball, there was just no way that I could do that.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to get even time to find when I could do my certification. So the typical way most people will do a certification is one weekend a month for a year. It's like all day Friday night, all day Saturday, most of the day Sunday. But with the baseball schedule, I couldn't do that. The other way to
Hmm.
do it is to do an immersion, go away for a couple weeks
Yeah.
and do it that way. So finally, been thinking about this forever. I go to Costa Rica in January of 2020. 3 weeks in Costa
Cool.
Rica,
Oh,
get my certification, not intending to teach, just deepening my practice. This is great. I learned more about yoga, the philosophies, all the stuff. And then a couple weeks later, the world shuts down. So I'm like,
I was gonna say
I
you weren't trapped in
don't
Costa
know
Rica,
when it
were
would have
you?
been before I would have the chance to go back to Costa Rica or anywhere to have done that. So
Yeah.
then we're all on lockdown, and my friends are like stir crazy. Hey, you're a yoga teacher now. You could do virtual classes. Oh, the weather's
Oh
getting nicer. We could
no.
go to the park and socially distance yoga. And I'm like, guys, I wasn't going to teach, and but I was doing it, and it was a good distraction. And I got feedback that I was a good teacher, probably because I also had experience, actually teaching social media classes, so I knew how to talk in front of
Yeah.
people, and I wasn't nervous in that regard. And then that's the same time when my career changed paths with starting my business. So all of a sudden I went from I don't have time to teach to I can make my schedule and make teaching part of that. So, um, that's kind of my side hustle because it's a passion.
Yeah.
But and I teach usually very early morning classes. I'm an early riser now. My schedule's totally flipped from baseball where I was up till
Right.
11 with games and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
most of the classes I teach are, before 7 a.m. and then maybe a couple evenings here or there, but that doesn't not generally interfere with client meetings and things like that. So
Are
it's a
you
good
in
balance.
a studio or do you still do virtual? Like what do you do?
Um, no
How
more
do you teach?
virtual. I have a couple different local studios that I work
Hmm.
with. One is a gym that I actually teach a boot camp class. I went on and got my
Oh, cool.
personal training certification as well. So group fitness, and I do a little bit of one-on-one yoga training with through another studio. I teach at a hot yoga studio. I've done paddleboard yoga out at a
That's
local lake here.
amazing.
And then I offer a community class outdoors at one of the elementary schools during the summer.
Cool.
I think you're in Ohio, right? So
Yes.
probably limited good time for the weather. So
Yes,
we go
yeah.
outside as much as we can here in Wisconsin, and then we'll do a community class at our local library in the winter time as well. So I don't have my own studio. There's no aspirations to make that my full-time business as of right now, but
It
I just
sounds like
have a for it.
I mean, it sounds like you don't really need it in the sense that it's keeping you probably busy enough I mean, it sounds like that's a lot, really, but neat that you're able to work with the community and probably build um, just a great surrounding of people in that realm
And
of
then
things that you're passionate about.
and I've brought everything back to golf because even the fitness comes back to golf.
Yeah.
I became yoga for golfers certified. Is I needed to take continuing education for yoga to
Hmm.
maintain my certification, and with my interest in golf, I was like, oh, I'll just do the yoga for golfers program, and maybe I can offer some clinics or workshops on that. If nothing else, I'll understand how the body works better for the golf swing, and did that, and then ended up getting a call from the head coach at the Marquette University men's golf team and asked if I could train the young men on yoga. So once a week now I teach I teach a social media class at Marquette, and I teach yoga to the golf team as well. So
That
it's
is so
that's where I
cool.
went to school. So it's cool to be
Oh,
back in my university, a couple of different random capacities. I haven't had none of the golfers have been in my social media class yet. So it would be interesting if that were the case.
ever happens.
But yeah.
That's so neat. You're a busy, busy lady, but it sounds like you're doing stuff that like you truly love. And do you feel like your career has been one thing after another that's just been not perfect, but it seems like from outside looking in that everything was kind of in place at the right time and really of all those stages you learn more and more about yourself and obviously has gotten you to this position of working in the things you love most. Like do you feel like you're at this point in your life that you can look at that and be like I am where I'm supposed to be, or do you feel like there's a lot more um, that you want to accomplish or do?
you know, I I think I'm good. Like right now, I don't know what the next step would be.
Hmm.
Because this is all kind of new and still evolving.
Yeah.
People ask, do I want to, my agency is me right now, right? So do
Yeah.
I want to add staff? I'm like, I don't really think so. So that limits, I know that limits how many clients I can take on. But if I have a
Hmm.
handful of really good clients that I work really hard on these accounts, I think that that's good. Maybe the fitness would grow. Not sure. But
Hmm.
um, like I said, I'm always a believer things happen for a reason, and you don't always know what that is, and you just kind of follow that journey. I tell students all the time when I work with them, if someone asks me that typical interview question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? If they
Yeah.
had asked me that, starting my career in baseball, what I ended up doing 5 years from that point hadn't
Yeah.
even been invented yet. Things keep changing so much, like
Yeah.
social media didn't exist. So,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know what the future holds, and I think that that's all. It's terrifying but exciting at the same time.
I think so, but I think the good news is like you're surrounding yourself and exposing yourself to, I think, areas like your fitness and golf where your opportunities will be in those fields, and it'll probably, I mean, it sounds like you've got more than golf on your plate when it comes to the communications and marketing side and teaching and all those things. But obviously, when you put yourself out there in those different situations, you'll have unexpected opportunities that just lead to something bigger and better and whatever you want it to be, which is cool. And you've got like control over it, which I think is also like kudos to you for being at a point in your life and career to be a businesswoman that's kind of taking control of that and can manage your schedule so you can do all those things. It's fascinating and it's really, really unique too. So
I think sometimes people get so
really,
locked into, I have to be married by this time. I have to own a house by this time. I have to be at this
mm-hmm.
point in my career. And not that you're letting life happen to you, but you're being open-minded about like, okay, it's going off in this direction and how can we make the
Yeah,
most of it, or how can we actively help pivot if we're not happy where we are. So
yeah,
I think it's just not being so rigid, and you can have, it's great to have goals, of course, and dreams, but
yeah.
it's being okay if things don't go as planned, you know, maybe
Absolutely.
taking it and taking advantage of it.
Absolutely. And have you come across, I mean, being kind of in the golf world as a woman and a woman entrepreneur, like is there um anything in particular that you feel like from a mental standpoint that's helped you just navigate that world and that space? Like is there, and it's probably maybe just a love for golf that you're like, this is where I want to be. I want to stay focused, or any other struggles that like you feel like you've had just um, with getting through all that?
I think just coming from baseball, golf is more relaxed, I want to say.
Yeah.
Especially, that each tournament is just an event. It's like an event that's just a week long when you look at it like that, instead of that whole 8 months where you're just focused on one thing. For me, it takes a lot of getting used to in doing
Hmm.
that. But it's definitely, especially working, like I love working the Champions Tour event a lot. That I'd love to work more Champions Tour events into my roster eventually. I think too, just that atmosphere in particular is very relaxed. These are guys that, they were on the tour, they did the grind, they
Yeah.
excelled, and now they're out there still playing because they love the sport.
Yeah.
There's no cuts. They know how important fans are to them, so they're willing to do a lot of things that I think a lot of times the younger golfers are so worried about making a paycheck, or how they're going to live day to day, and all the stressors of performance, that they're not seeing the bigger picture of why is social media important to me, why should I do this interview.
Yeah.
But I think the Champions Tour guys, they get it, and it's just more laid back nature, I
Yeah.
think.
And
So
easygoing. That's
so
cool.
I've enjoyed that, and just it's just changing it up from baseball to golf. I think that's helped me a lot already, having
Hmm.
been in a very male dominated industry for
Yeah,
as long as my
definitely.
career. It's like you don't even realize
Nope.
it anymore, and and you see more and more women in it, which
Yes.
is great. I used to attend a conference every year, and um, I'd walk into the women's bathroom, and there's always lines for women's bathrooms, and there weren't lines. And I was like, this is one place where I want to see a line someday.
That's
You
right.
have
That's
a
right.
break at the conference, and you want the women in sports conference,
That's
or
cool.
that bathroom line to be big. So, but
Yeah.
it definitely has made strides in the industry, and yeah, I think it's no different probably than anybody else's stressors, and I don't know that I have a secret to dealing with it, but
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think I mean just like the point of this series is just like highlighting people like yourself that there's so many opportunities in the sport, and I think um it's it's a part of like attracting people to the sport, but it's more about just celebrating those that have taken a risk, I think, in the business, and not a risk but really found opportunity in it, and um found something of their own because it's just like any industry and any business, there's just so many things to highlight, and golf in particular is just it's been a fun one to see where everybody has fallen, and it's all tied back to some either experience or passion for the sport, or like you integrating even your fitness, right, or your background and education in marketing and social media, and not necessarily being the collegiate player, or and that's what's cool, like we're not talking to just players, it's so much more, but it's neat in your light that it was a casual love for playing, and here you are like reporting and helping with social media at these really big events. It's so cool. So we're excited to share this with our community. I think there'll be a lot of people that are touched by your story and just interested in what you're up to.
Well, thank you so much, Allie. I really appreciate you
Absolutely.
asking me to in.
Absolutely. Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Caitlin, for the time. And again, we'll get this shared with our community and can't wait to follow you along as you take on more and more.
Awesome. Thank you again.
Thanks, Caitlin.